This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
All right, it's go time on Hump Day here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the program. Great to be with you this afternoon. Got a very exciting show coming up. I'm Andrew Hustler Paterson along with Michael Remis back at the command center. And we've got our pal Dave McCarthy coming up in a few minutes. We'll discuss what's going on with the Maple Leafs, the North Division, lots of hockey talk, and some more hockey talk a little later on. I promised you guys a special guest, and coming up a little later on today, your favorite player, well, many of you, Nikolaj Ehlers, coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Let's get Michael Remis in here. But before we do that, we thank our wonderful sponsors, Not Auto Corp, Royal Sports, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, and Boston Pizza Winnipeg, along with, of course, Breezy Bend and Cool Bet Canada. Remis, what's going on? How are you today, my friend?
Feeling great. We've had a morning full of news to get to.
Woo!
Well, first of all, I had to put out all the social media stuff, made some nice graphics of today's special guest, Nikolaj Ehlers, but don't forget Dave McCarthy, first up for some great hockey talk. Can't wait to talk about the Leafs. We all watched their game last night, so I'm sure goaltending will come up. But we also had some other news today. Double IHF announcing the cancellation of the women's World Championships in Halifax. But it seems like Hockey Canada put a release after. They're going to try to reschedule it, so we'll wait and see on that. But then we also had the announcement that the CFL looking to start August 5th for the season. And we'll touch on that, and as well Jets practice too. We did have a bit of a tweak for the pairings today.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start off with the CFL because we're going to talk a lot of hockey and we will talk a lot of Jets. Jordy Ben looks like he'll be getting into the lineup against the Leafs tomorrow night. But the long-awaited announcement from the Canadian Football League happened today, and to the surprise of absolutely nobody. With where we're at with the virus right now, we will not be, getting into training camp as scheduled. Remis, as you just mentioned, the CFL announced today they are targeting for a season kickoff on the 5th of August and to play a 14-game schedule concluding with the Grey Cup on the 12th of December. Now, I mean, as I said, this is not a surprise. And again, I think so much is still up in the air, left to be determined. That's out of everybody's hands in the CFL. I mean, I was talking to Rod Peterson today on his program, and, even if a white knight rolled in with the $100 million check and the finances were completely taken care of for this season, we're in the middle of a pandemic right now. And I think we've seen what's happening, especially in Ontario, in Alberta right now. Even, despite the increased vaccinations, we're seeing the test positivity rise here in the province of Manitoba. And it's just not feasible right now to play this season as planned. I am optimistic, though. I mean, certainly from hearing a number of people that are very much in the know on this, there is an optimism that this will happen. We will be able to get pro football, CFL football on the field this year, and that is a good thing. Now, Paul Friesen of The Sun, I'll give a shout out to Frieser. He got a number of comments from Bomber CEO Wade Miller, who we're hoping to have join us on the program tomorrow. Here are just a few of his quotes, and you can see these. I'm sure Frieser will have these in The Sun. He's also put them out on Twitter at Friesen Sun Media. Wade Miller, planning for fans in the stands for Game 1, physically distanced people, pod seating, will work with public health when we get closer to that. Let's see where it goes. What people can do now is get vaccinated when it's your turn. He sees capacity starting at less than 50% for home games, but would like to see 100% by the end of the season. That is the goal. And and here's another one. Depending on guidance from public health officials, there's a chance only vaccinated fans are allowed into the stadium. We're all going to have to be flexible. I think people want to get back to an event in Investors Group Field. That is for sure. And an interesting tidbit, because of course we're all waiting not only to get back to cheer on the Bombers and, enjoy football outdoors at IG Field, but this city also wants to raise that 2019 Grey Cup banner. They will not do that until they can have a full house. And Wade Miller says that's a celebration that belongs to every Bomber fan and every single citizen in this province. So we're going to wait until we can have 33,000 plus people. No surprise, a little bit of details, Remis, for CFL fans that are honkering to, just have some sort of clarity as to what is possible going forward. To be honest, I think that August 5th start date, I think it's realistic, and that is what was important to come out today. Give people the goods, where things are at, when we can get there, and what people need to do in the meantime. And obviously, people, doing what they can to keep the spread of the virus down, get their shot, and hopefully we'll all be able to get into that stadium on the 5th of August. And at some point, maybe even this year, fill the damn place and raise that banner that was 30 years in the making.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of optimistic about this, Huss. It seems like things are moving along. People are getting their shots. More and more people becoming eligible every day. So, it is also an outside. So if you have 50% capacity, I think that's doable. 14-game season. It's only 4 less games, so it's starting a bit late. It'd probably be more compressed, maybe only one bye. And then the Grey Cup. The only thing, I'm like, Grey Cup December in Hamilton? I mean, I know they had promised
better than Regina or Winnipeg.
Yeah, better. Yeah, they didn't want to go indoors at BC or. So
we'll Arash Madani did report that Eastern teams have been notified that they likely will have to start in the West. So again, I think there's still far more information that honestly is still to be determined as to how this works. But at least we've got a targeted start date. I think it's important for the players to know exactly what the situation is, because of course they're the ones that, like in any industry, the airlines shut down. Well, then you've got all the people that work in the airlines that, were out of jobs. It's not a lot different. They have been able to maintain many of the staff positions for CFL teams to stay operating throughout the pandemic. But when it comes to the players, they're essentially paid when they play games, and there hasn't been games, and it's been very difficult for all of them. So I certainly understand the frustration of the players right now who want to get back to work and earn a living for their families. Not to mention the fact that pro football careers are so short. And we've talked about this before in the past. I mean, how different will this league look when we finally get back on the field? I mean, we'll be, a year and a half, 18, 20 months since a game was played. And you do wonder, how different these rosters will look and how many stars of the CFL have moved on to other things. But the bottom line is, I think there still is hope. We'll have football here this season. And the other side of things is, and this will be where there's some more reporting to be done by the insiders. Oh, sorry about that. Testing a few alarms today. If you caught me on Rod today, that happened as well. I can't guarantee that won't happen again. But anyways, getting back onto the field is what everybody wants to see. And as I said, hopefully we'll have Wade Miller join us, and we'll find out a little bit more about, their plans from the organization. You like that alarm going off, didn't you?
Well, I'm putting that on our Instagram reels for sure. So.
Hey, you never know.
Stay tuned.
We might have another blast or two today.
I really hope that happens more.
Nothing could be worse. Nothing could be worse than when the actual alarm. This thing, I swear to God, if this thing went off, many of you could hear it wherever you are in this city right now watching. I mean, this is a war siren pretty much that we've got in this building here. So, well, there you go. We got another blast there for you. Just to let you know we're on it, on alert here at the in the Hustler Sports Bar on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily.
Everyone wants to know if your fries in your oven are ready in chat.
Fries in the oven. Just
You got some McCain spirals or what?
You give me. I haven't been doing a lot of cooking lately. You guys are giving me too much credit. Hey, listen, we'll talk more about the CFL as we learn more about this. When we will talk NHL with Dave McCarthy coming up in a few minutes. But man, really disappointing news from Hockey Canada today that the World Women's Hockey Championship is going to be canceled. That's supposed to be in Halifax and Toronto, Nova Scotia, I believe May 6th to 16th. And this kind of hits, it's personal to me too, because, the experience I had working for Hockey Canada, putting on with some great people here in Winnipeg, the 2007 World Women's Hockey Championships was such a great experience. And you realize how important that event is to women's hockey. We've talked about the lack of, any real legitimate professional league right now. I shouldn't say legitimate, they are there, but it's not, it has been a work in progress. There's been rival leagues. The one time people really do pay close attention is the pinnacle of women's hockey, the Olympics, of course, but the annual World Women's Hockey Championships. Last year was canceled, and now this year is canceled. They do say that they're looking to try to get another date for this event, but, just really, really unfortunate. And it's going to impact a ton of people as well out in the Maritimes that, much like we were talking about CFL players losing the opportunity to work. If you're in broadcasting, if you're involved in the event business, this was going to be something that was big for that area. So a lot of people have lost jobs as well. So that is really unfortunate. We'll reach out to Hockey Canada maybe in the next few days to try to get somebody on as well to talk about where they go from there. But unfortunately, a ton of news today. It pretty much all has to do one way or the other with the damn COVID-19 virus. And we can just hope that, we'll have better news going forward. And as far as the CFL goes, that August 5th date becomes a reality because I think people can handle waiting. What people can't handle is no football this summer, and that really, really would be unfortunate. We're going to talk to Dave McCarthy coming up in just a couple minutes, and Nikolaj Ehlers of the Winnipeg Jets a little later on in the program. As always, Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily brought to you by Knott Auto Corp. Why not get into the car of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Knott team? Visit them at Waverly and McGilvery or online at knott.ca. And if you're in a vehicle right now, maybe you're looking to get out of a lease or upgrade, talk to them about consigning it for you. Got a very successful consignment program. I'll tell you all about it. Waverly and McGilvery at Knott Auto Corp. And of course, Royal Sports. It's going to be nice outside. We've gotten through this crappy last couple of weeks. I see they're getting the snow in Toronto. That's kind of what we had the last few days. But we'll be back on the golf course soon. Soccer pitches, baseball. Get ready for spring at Royal Sports. They've got a newly expanded fitness department, and the bikes are continuing to come in despite a worldwide bicycle shortage. They've got them at Royal Sports, including e-bikes starting at $13.50. Pop down Royal Sports, $6.50 Rally and EK, and the Superstore, $7.50 Pembina Highway, and tell them your boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. All right, as promised, Nikolaj Ehlers of the Winnipeg Jets coming up a little bit later on. But let's welcome in our pal from NHL.com, Sirius XM NHL Radio. He is the one, the only Dave McCarthy. What's going on, dude?
Hustler, what's going on? Glad to be on with you again. How's things? We're just trying to dig out of some snow here in Ontario, Toronto today. I know you guys are used to that out in your neck of the woods. Us, in the middle of April, not so much. I was out there running around trying to knock snow off my plants. It was not an ideal morning.
You know what the funniest thing about this winter is? We had the softest winter ever.
So did we.
And like, it was just mild, and the March we had was like May. And then we got to April, and the golf courses are opening, and then we got the biggest snowfall of the winter, 25 centimeters just a couple weeks ago. We'd only had like one snowfall above 10 centimeters all winter long, and then we got it in April, so it was a little bit of a setback, but it looks like we're out of it right now. So, and I saw Bob Weeks tweeting, never mind open up the golf courses, open up the ski hills right now. Yeah. So, well, what the heck? I guess with what you're dealing right now, everyone's supposed to stay home anyways, so maybe this will keep people inside and away from others for a bit.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I mean, it's not all that hard to stay home, I don't think, Hustler. I love being home. All my stuff is here.
Well, speaking of your stuff, did you bring your staff today to the interview?
Oh man, no. See, I can see it from where I am, but if I was to leave, then it would look bad on TV. So, I mean, if you want to fill time for 5 seconds, I can run grab it, but it's up to you.
Well, yeah, please do. Actually, this is just not going to be. It's not going to be.
Give me 5 seconds.
The Dave McCarthy experience isn't complete unless Dave comes back with the staff that he has made so famous on his Instagram feed. Again, if you haven't already checked out Dave's show Sunday mornings, it's the Sirius XM NHL Sunday brunch, and as I said, he's made the staff famous. Yeah. You have to be the only guy in hockey media that can rock a staff like that, Dave. That's
I don't know.
It really has become your thing.
There's some good-looking guys out there who could rock a staff if they so choose. So I'm not trying to develop exclusivity on the staff. I'm trying to encourage people to buy into the greatness of what the staff can offer you. It really is just a great feeling when you're walking around with this guy.
By any chance, have you used that staff and put some sort of a spell or a curse on the goaltenders for the Toronto Maple Leafs? Yikes!
Wow.
Big Save Dave was far from his namesake last night. Yikes.
Yeah, the goaltending for the Maple Leafs in the last little while here has not been very good. Jack Campbell went on an unbelievable run to start the season, albeit it was spaced over a number of weeks. Certainly the first 3 wins were over the span of about 2 months. Then he went on to win 11 straight. But toward the tail end of that streak, he started to look a little bit porous. He won a game against the Ottawa Senators, the last game that he won, which was not exactly his best game. And after that game, he joked that, oh, man, I need to buy the boys a Red Lobster dinner after tonight for bailing me out and scoring 6. And then since then, he hasn't won a game. And he's been allowing a lot of goals in where you just can't allow those in the National League if you expect to go on a deep run. And then they brought in Dave Riddick to try to stabilize the goaltending with Freddie Anderson still on the shelf. And we don't know when it is he'll be back at this point. He's starting to practice again, skate, work with a goalie coach, which is good. But still no timeline on his return to the lineup. And even if he is at a point where he can get back, might be difficult from a cap standpoint to work Freddie back in because he's on LTIR right now. But Dave Riddick, certainly last night there were a couple of goals, 2 against, one against Niels Höglander, just a slap shot, and then one from Tanner Pearson, which was even worse. They looked like goals that you might see go in the 80s, and then even then you'd be like, Grant Fuhr, I need a save there. So it has not been good, and it's a big concern. Sheldon Keefe has suggested as much. He said our biggest issue right now, having lost 5 in a row, has been goaltending. When you can't get a save, you can't win consistently in this league, and that's what the Leafs are dealing with right now.
Keith last night had one of the biggest scuds I've heard a coach fire at one of his own players in a long time. Described the game, said, I thought we played, well. I thought we did a lot of good things. And then the money quote was, there's some things you just can't overcome. Yeah. Not leaving a lot to the imagination as to why they lost that game. But the bottom line is, Dave, this team has now lost 5 games in a row. And despite still, having a bit of a cushion in the North Division, now Winnipeg and Edmonton have games in hand right now. And of course, we got 2 head-to-head matchups, Jets-Leafs, coming up beginning tomorrow night here in the Peg.
Yeah, it should be fascinating to see how that series plays out because once again, there's something very much on the line for this Winnipeg Jets team. I'm with you though, Hustler. That comment was pointed last night. It almost reminded me of John Tortorella's old comment on John Graham back in the day where, he was like, can you give me I don't know if we can use those words on this show, but you know what I'm saying. And that's the level of pointedness that I took that as. So it's incumbent on, Jack Campbell's going to get the start on Thursday against the Jets to be better. Because like I said, and I agree with the coach, you can play as well as you want. You can control the play as much as you want. But if slap shots from the top of the circle unimpeded are going in the net with that level of frequency, you're just not going to be able to win. But once again, it's looking good for the Jets if they can put together a couple of good games and take 4 points from the Leafs, even better in regulation. Then suddenly there's a really good race down the stretch here. And I think, like I said the last time I was on the show, I am not counting this Jets team out quite yet because coming into the year, I picked them to finish first. I really like the group. And they seem to be trending in the right direction right now toward the end of the year, which is what you want to do. The Leafs, on the other hand, are going in the wrong direction.
What's your read on the Edmonton Oilers? I mean, we know what they're bringing to the table at the top of the lineup. And they've had some success against the Winnipeg Jets. I believe that's 4 in a row right now. Jets won a couple earlier on, but, they had the 2 consecutive regulation wins, which was the first time Jets had lost in regulation back-to-back all season. And then coming off that nice 4-1 road trip, ended up getting shut out. And Mike Smith's been a great story, but do you believe in the Oilers come playoff time, Dave?
Yeah, I do. For a number of reasons. One, the goaltending from Mike Smith has yet to give me a reason to doubt it this year. You wonder how much does Mike Smith at this age of 39 have in the tank, but like I said, he hasn't given me a reason to doubt. So until he does, I can't really doubt him. He's been unbelievable this year. He's having legitimately a Vezina Trophy caliber season. Connor McDavid is on some other level right now. When you have a guy like him in the lineup, you've always got a chance. The goal he scored the other night, as good as that was, I was joking on my show that it shows you the high standards we have for Connor, because from his standpoint, I don't even think that goal is in the top 3 he scored this year, but anybody else scores that, we're losing our mind. And, it's leading highlight shows until the end of time. But for Connor, it's just another day at the office. So he's on another level right now. He's feeling it. Draisaitl is playing great. Once they get Nugent-Hopkins back in, their lineup has more length than it does in previous years. They're getting some contributions from down the lineup, which is good. And I think their blue line, unexpectedly, has really come together quite nicely. Darnell Nurse is playing the best hockey of his career. I think he's playing quite honestly, not necessarily Norris Trophy caliber defense, but I think he's probably in the top 10. You could make an argument this year for how well he's played. And he's formed a really nice pairing with Tyson Barrie. And Barrie is back to the level that he was at during his tenure in Colorado. He's looked really good. Ethan Bear has developed into a reliable guy on the back end. They brought in Kulikov to help add a little bit of depth. He'll get in the lineup soon. So this team is coming together to me. And I think they could absolutely give the Jets or the Leafs a run for their money at this point. I mean, to me, it's really difficult to sit here and project who could come out of this division right now, because I think you could make legit arguments, certainly for the Jets and the Leafs and the Oilers at this point.
Hey, back to the Leafs for a sec. There was the report that William Nylander wasn't going to play last night. He was going to be benched for missing a team meeting. He ended up being back in the lineup. Was William Nylander saved by the Rogers phone outage? Are we to believe that his phone wasn't working, so that's why he didn't get the text and that's why he missed the meeting?
Oh, I don't know. That cost me a lot of annoyance and frustration on Monday. I'll tell you that much. Williams said after the game last night that he misread an email. I mean, it's possible. But it's interesting because it seemed like he was going to be out, and what may have saved him even more so was the fact that they suddenly came down with a rash of injuries. Obviously, Zach Hyman is out for a period of time, at minimum 2 weeks. Ilya Mikheyev suddenly couldn't play, so they needed a body. And I think Sheldon Keefe went to Nylander and essentially told him, look, any other time you'd be out of the lineup tonight, but I need something from you tonight, and you need to deliver. And Nylander, to his credit, played quite well. There was no issue with William.
That's the great take alarm, Dave.
Yeah.
That was, every time you have a great take, we just fire off the alarm here at HQ.
I love it. But, there was no issue with the way William played. In fact, if he plays that way on most nights, he'll be really happy with Nylander. But it's going to be incumbent on him to play like that down the stretch of the regular season here, because there have been times this year where he's been good, but then there have been other times, quite honestly, for an extended period too, where he's been just okay. And for a guy of his ability, it's a shame when 60% of the time you get just okay Willie and not great level Willie, which is what he's capable of performing at.
All right, let's go down to the bottom of the North Division, the race, if you want to call it that, for fourth place. We talked about this yesterday on the show, Dave. It is incredible. The Vancouver Canucks, when they were infected with the COVID virus and everyone had to shut down, they had to shut down. They had a 6% chance of making the playoffs. They play once in 4 weeks, and they go into last night with an 18% chance of making the playoffs, which just speaks to how poor the Montreal Canadiens have been and the absolute lack of anything from the Calgary Flames. Is Vancouver, could this be some sort of Cinderella run that's starting with these games? I mean, we know what a meat grinder of a schedule they have going forward, but for a while we were talking about Montreal, Calgary fighting for that. I think Calgary's essentially taken them out of the race with these last couple losses. Are we going to be talking about the Vancouver Canucks pushing the Habs for this spot?
Well, you're right. It's largely because of how poor Montreal and Calgary have been for the period of time where Vancouver had been inactive. And Calgary, this time last week, you could start to kind of convince yourself that they might have a path. They had won 3 in a row. They had some games in hand on Montreal, and you look at it and you say, well, if they keep winning some games, well, maybe there's an opportunity. And then they go out and they lose 2 in a row, and that's just not going to get it done at this point of the year. You're running out of time, and I think Calgary's pretty well had it. But now you look at Vancouver, and thanks to taking 4 off the Leafs, they get out to a great start. Now they've got a ton of games in hand on Montreal. And similar to Calgary last week, you can start to convince yourself that maybe if they keep winning, there is a path to a playoff spot for Vancouver. It's going to be difficult, though, for a number of reasons. One, as you mentioned, their schedule is going to be just brutal down the stretch. I think it's 19 games in like 31 days that they had once they started back up again. I mean, man, oh man, that is a lot to ask. Secondly, given what they went through, I think you could make the argument on Sunday and even on Tuesday, they were playing on some level of adrenaline. And that's understandable, right? I mean, you get out to a good start. They let you hang around. The Leafs did on Sunday. If you're Vancouver, you get into the third period and you think, man, why don't we just try and win this game? And they did. And last night, the Leafs just couldn't get a stop, and they essentially gave the game to Vancouver. So how I see it playing out is that Vancouver, they've won a couple games. They might go for a week here and play pretty well, but I do kind of expect at some point them to hit the wall midway through with the remaining games that they have. And there's my hot take alarm. And then go into a bit of a tank, and then by the end of it, maybe pull out and come back to a bit of life, but it might be a little too late at that point. It would be a tremendous story, and let me just say, I'm cheering for the Vancouver Canucks. You don't generally like to say you're cheering for teams when you're in the media, but my goodness, I am, and it would be really cool to see them at least give it a run and play meaningful games down the stretch. Because I think a lot of people thought, well, why are you even bothering to make Vancouver come back? Like, they're already done. Well, maybe not. And if they keep winning games, they'll give themselves a chance. And it would be that would be, to me, I think, the story of the season if they end up finding their way into a playoff spot.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. And I mean, right now with those 2 wins against the Leafs, Vancouver's 8 points back of Montreal, but they do have the 4 games in hand. Now,
right.
Listen, I mean, I realize it's a lot to expect of this hockey club with what they're up against to go on that sort of a run. But again, it is about time for the Montreal Canadiens to sort of get their act together and win some games. We've got the Carey Price situation, which is up in the air, concussed. You got Brendan Gallagher out, which really seems to be the emotional driver of this club.
Yeah.
You wonder, and I mean, then there's all the talk about Marc Bergevin. I mean, the aggressive move to fire Claude Julien early in the season and move on to Dom Ducharme. I mean, he's sort of played a lot of his cards already, Dave. And, even if Montreal limps into the playoffs in 4th and goes out in the first round, you wonder what the aftermath of that is, because the decisions and the moves that he's made this year have really sort of, told the story that he is a guy that, has as much pressure on him as maybe any general manager in the NHL right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. It's interesting. I think at the beginning of the year, it looked like Montreal was going to be amongst the class in the North Division, and that's not how it's played out. Since the coaching change, there really hasn't been as much improvement with the Canadiens as they would have liked. And obviously losing Gallagher is huge. He really drives that team. And Carey Price had been out for 5 games. He comes back for a game and a half, and now he gets a concussion, which is not ideal at all. because without Carey Price at his best, that's another big shot in the foot to this team. But you just look at Montreal, and I don't know, man. When I watch them play, they don't seem like they have a hope of scoring on very many shifts. Their power play is abysmal. And when you're not very good at even strength and you can't shoot it in the net on the power play, man, you need to win a lot of games 2-1. And that's where Carey Price comes into play. And he hasn't been available of late. And Jake Allen's been, he's been okay, but, not great. So the Canadians, they're in an interesting spot because I like some of the moves they made. Toffoli, Anderson, they've proven to be good pickups, but they're not having the level of impact that I thought they might have at this time in the year, and they're struggling to score. So if Montreal limps in, and I don't see them being able to go on a run, like they would be my fourth pick if they get in to come out of the North Division behind Toronto, Winnipeg, and Edmonton.
And just on that, Dave, I think that speaks to what should be, an exciting race for first place. In that, you get Montreal, but you also avoid one of Winnipeg or Edmonton in the first round if you are able to get that top spot. Not to mention hanging a North Division banner, which I think will mean a lot to fans in any Canadian city, a lot more than any normal division banner, as we've talked about before.
Yeah, I think it would be neat, right? To at least for 1 year have the title as best Canadian team, right? I mean, we are talking about it every year, who's best Canadian team, and we try and come up with the answer, but we don't really know because you don't play the Canadian teams enough. And then it's okay, well, this team went on, the longest run in the playoffs, but then they lost the same. And there's never an answer. This year you'll have a definitive answer. So that'll be interesting to see. But that's a great point. I mean, if you win the division, Montreal will be a far easier matchup, I think, than Toronto, Winnipeg, or Edmonton. So there's value with finishing first in the division. And I think, excuse me, at this point, it's going to be a good battle between Toronto, Winnipeg, and Edmonton. It's going to start playing out as soon as Thursday night when Toronto and Winnipeg go up against each other for the first of two games. And how those two games play out will really determine whether or not Winnipeg will be in the mix down the stretch here for first place, I think.
Dave McCarthy is with us. Dave, you are getting a lot of love in the YouTube chat. It is almost unanimous that you are the best dressed guest we have had on the program. And again, you really need, and that's why I'm glad you brought the staff out too, because the outfit is the outfit's just not entirely complete until you have that thing. Hey, let's talk about a couple of the games last night in the NHL. And New Jersey's been eminently forgettable over the last little while. It sort of seemed like they had completely packed it in. They lost 4 straight to the Rangers. They were down 6-0 last night after 2 periods. And I'll be honest, I was going back and checking some scores for a couple bets that I'd made. And I thought that the tickers and the scoring, there was some sort of a mistake. 7-6. New Jersey scores 6 goals in the third period, only to come up 1 goal short because Sidney Crosby got the insurance goal to make it 7. What an absolutely bizarre hockey game last night for a team that looked all but dead earlier on, down 6-0 to a pretty good Pittsburgh squad.
Yeah, that was nuts. That's never happened before, where a team has given up 6 in the third period and still won a game. It's never happened in the National Hockey League. So you never know. You come to the rink each night, or you throw on the TV each night, you may well see something that's never happened before. And that was an example of it last night between the Penguins and Devils. I mean, there was so much going on in this game. Like, we didn't even mention the backhand dump-in goal from Brian Dumoulin from the red line that ping-ponged its way into the net. I mean, that's one of those ones where, as a goalie, no matter what level you've played in, if you've strapped on the pads at any point in whether in a professional career or just having fun out out on the driveway, you've let one of those goals in. It's a weird bounce. It's hard to fault the goalie, but man, it's a bad look when it goes in. So there was that. How about the pass that Sidney Crosby made to Brian Rust? I think it was on the second Penguins goal in the first period, where Rust
only Sid.
Like off from the near boards, off the far boards, to catch Rust as he's charging to the net in the slot in stride. Like, Sid must have got A's in trigonometry at Shattuck St. Mary's, because that was just a thing of beauty. And then Sidney's goal himself, as you mentioned, this was an unbelievable goal. Like, he's from an impossible angle down below the faceoff circle. It's just bang on his stick and off his stick and into the net so quickly that nobody even really, other than Sidney, knew it had gone in the net. That's what I took away from this game, is that you don't watch Pittsburgh every night, but man, when you do, what a treat it is watching Sidney Crosby, because, like, Connor McDavid beats you with sheer speed and skill, and he's just better than everyone on the ice from his physical attributes. Sidney doesn't have that kind of speed anymore, if he ever really did have it. But the way that man thinks the game is truly at a level that I don't think there's anybody, including McDavid, in the league that thinks the game that way. Like, McDavid knows where he wants to go, and then he just beats you with his speed. Sidney doesn't have that, but he beats you with his mind, and that's what he did last night. But just to see the Devils mount that comeback in the third was pretty cool to see. And I think at this point for the Devils, for Tom Fitzgerald, their general manager, it's a foundational year. It's obviously not a year where they're going to make the playoffs. They were officially eliminated last night. Not that they weren't already before. But it's like, look, let's see what we got here. Who's playing hard down the stretch when games are out of reach? Who do I think can be a piece of this group moving forward? And I think Tom's getting a lot of valuable information as he looks to build this Devils team back up. It's still years away from contention. But if they can start to identify some of their young players like Ty Smith, who didn't play last night, but I think he's going to be a really good piece on that back end. Igor Serengovich is looking like a bit of a find up front. They've got some pieces there, some building blocks. You're going to get another high pick this year in the draft. That's what it's all about. Accumulate young players, figure out who can be a part of it moving forward. And if you're Tom Fitzgerald, you got to be pretty happy with the level of compete that you saw from the group last night, even in a game where it looked like they were out of it at a point in the year where the games don't really mean all that much.
No, it's a great point. And we had to bring it up because it was just such a bizarre game and noteworthy for that point. The most and the best game last night, I think, was Carolina-Tampa. Those two teams had back-to-back games. Carolina lost in OT on the first night, came back with a big win, 4-1 in regulation. They're now first place in that division, Dave, in what is, I guess they're calling the Central. I'm sure it's got a sponsored name, which I can't remember. But so Carolina's at 65 points now. Again, hot take alarm. Here we go. Florida, 65, but they have played 2 more games. And then there's Tampa, who is now 3 points back at Carolina and have played an extra game. And, much like we talked about the race for first in the North Division, where you avoid Winnipeg or Edmonton and would presumably get Montreal in that first round. I mean, this race for first to me is so important because whoever is the first place team is going to probably get Nashville or Dallas. Yeah. And then you're going to have 2 of the best teams in the league playing each other in the first round of the playoffs because, for my money, Florida is legit. We all know Tampa and Carolina's right there. And, winning that division and avoiding that Veet Grounder first round series, I think, is going to be very impactful when we get to the second round.
I agree. I think their division this year is not unlike the Atlantic Division the last number of years, where the 3 teams in that division, Tampa, Boston, Toronto, one of those teams going home after the first round, and it always seemed like it was the Leafs. So you want to avoid that matchup this year in the Central Division, because I'm with you. I think Florida is legit. Like, they keep losing key personnel. Obviously, Ekblad out for the year. They'd missed Barkov for a period of time. Hornqvist has been out for a period of time. Verhaeghe been out for a period of time. He's still out. Yet they just keep continuing to find ways to win. And how about that Sam Bennett pickup? I think he's going to fit in fantastically well on that Florida team. But they're legit. And then they won a game last night with Spencer Knight, who was the first goalie born in the 2000s to appear in an NHL game, and he won his debut. I mean, that makes you feel old. But then there's this Carolina and Tampa rivalry that's developing. Firstly, I would love to see a series between these 2 teams because in the regular year, there's been a lot of parity in their season series, and there's a level of hatred and animosity that is developing amongst these 2 groups. Nino Niederreiter said it after the game last night. He said, look, quite simply, we don't like them and they don't like us. It's really as simple as that. There have been some big hits the last couple of games. Marty Nikosh got rocked. Brady Shea took a hit from behind last night that Rod Brindamore was not all too pleased about. Jake Gardner, a certainly not noted pugilist, jumping in to protect his teammate the other night and having a tilt. I mean, when Jake Gardner's tilting, there's a level of hatred between the two groups. So I think it's a great point you make that first place is super valuable in that division so that you can avoid playing one of those three teams in the first round. But man, I do hope at some point we see a Carolina-Tampa series because I think it would be one very difficult to call. I think that would be one that would go 7 games, but I think it could get a little bit nasty too because these two teams clearly they will not be mailing each other Christmas cards this Christmas.
No doubt about it, Dave. I mean, these two, if you've watched any of the games the last couple nights, I mean, it really did have a playoff feel. There's a major intensity, and the dislike is cranked up to 10 right now. And, I hope for hockey fans' sake, we will get that. And I would say the same thing over in the West. And it seems like these two teams are on a collision course to meet in the second round. And I'm not sure there'll be a better series. It'll either be Carolina, Tampa. The North Division final will be exciting. Mm-hmm. But to me, maybe the best series of the entire Stanley Cup playoffs may very well be round 2, assuming that Vegas and Colorado go head-to-head. What do you think about those two teams and the prospect of that second-round series?
Yeah, that's why I was giving that look there. I was anticipating what you were going to say and to see if it was what I had in my mind, and it was, because I'm with you. Colorado, Vegas. Like Colorado, I know they've been shut down right now, and hopefully they're able to get back on the ice soon. Report today that Mikko Rantanen, who was added to the protocol, tested not positive, so negative in this case, which is great. So hopefully they're able to get back on the ice pretty soon. But man, when Colorado was rolling, they weren't just beating teams; they were annihilating teams. Like it was nuts, the level of which Colorado was playing at. So this team is going to be fascinating to see. They're no longer just a one-line team, but the top line that they have is amongst the best in the NHL with Rantanen and McKinnon and Landeskog. Like Rantanen to me has been playing the best hockey of his career, which is scary to say because he's been pretty good for quite some time. But I was talking to John Michael Lyles on the brunch last Sunday, and I asked him about that. He said, look, he's really starting to understand how to use his size now. Great take, right?
Great tweet. Great take.
Because he's built like they don't call him the Moose for nothing, but he's got the size and the skill and the speed, or I should say the speed and the skill of a guy whose size is like 5'9". So he's taken a step forward. They've got depth throughout their lineup now with Kadri and Brandon Saad. They brought in Carl Soderberg as well, who'd been a valuable piece on their group of 4, and I think can lengthen their lineup in their bottom 6 and would be a nice addition. Their blue line is bananas. Like, who do you want? Cale Makar, Sam Girard, Bowen Byram as a rookie has been playing unbelievably well. Like, it's an embarrassment of riches on the back end, and Philipp Grubauer, he's been having a Vezina Trophy caliber year, and then they added some depth with Devin Dubnyk, which I think was a great pickup by Joe Sakic before the deadline. So Colorado has all the tools to me, but this Vegas team, they're right there as well. Their only area of maybe slight concern to me would be up the middle of the ice in Vegas. But other than that, like there's not a ton of weaknesses on this Vegas team. Mark Stone, I don't know about you, Hustler, but he's criminally underrated to me. What the guy is able to do, he scores clutch goals. He is a beast when he doesn't have the puck, and those are the guys that I want on my team in the playoffs because, I need guys that can play without the puck on my team at that time of the year. You can't have guys that just float around and play river hockey. Stone is one of the best in that area.
Just on Stone, Dave, I was watching the overtime between the Sharks and Knights a couple nights ago. And I mean, Stone at 5-on-5 seems to be just like a vacuum for the puck. It finds him, and he's as good as anybody in the league with taking the puck off. He was doing it at 3-on-3. His two-way game and just how effective he is when he often doesn't have the puck. He'll get it soon. An absolute difference maker and a big, big part of Vegas'. Now, listen, Dave, we got to run it in a sec, but just on the way out, we're going to have Nikolaj Ehlers come on the program. Fan favorite here in Winnipeg, having an unbelievable season.
Love
Are
listening to that
people
guy
around
talk.
the league? Are people around the league waking up to just how good Nikolaj Ehlers is?
I think so. I mean, I heard him speak the other day when he reached 300 points. I think that was the record that he reached, about what that means to him. And he started talking about it's not so much what it means to him, but it's what it means to his legacy back in Denmark at home, and how he hopes that throughout his career, and then once his career is done, he's able to help set a legacy in Denmark for kids that are coming up right now that look up to him. And it wasn't from a selfish standpoint or anything like that. It was just from the heart as to how much he cares about trying to help push the importance of the game and the love of the game forward in his home country, the way guys like Frans Nielsen, he said, did for him when he was growing up. So I just thought that was a really interesting way of looking at it, because it shows you what kind of guy Nikolaj is. And that just, speaks to what he's all about off the ice, the kind of guy that he is. Clearly the type of guy that you want on your group. But man, this guy's got so much skill. I think he's got some more consistency into his game, which might have been a bit of a bugaboo at times early in his career. But listening to Paul Maurice speak about him, he speaks really highly about how he's progressed and developed. I think this guy is turning into a tremendous piece in Winnipeg, and a really savvy draft pick. And I'll tell you this, I hope you ask him the one question that I need you to ask him. Why does he tie his skates like a men's league player? Because that's the only thing about him that I'm like, dude, you're in the National League and you're still doing the old wraparound. But hey, if it's working for you, like my staff is for me, keep it up.
Dave, you're the best, buddy. Thanks for doing this. We'll catch up again real soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Hustler.
Right on. Follow him on Twitter at Dave A. McCarthy, and check out his work at NHL.com, and of course for Sirius XM NHL Radio. All right, before we get to our special guest today, I want to thank Boston Pizza Winnipeg for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. We can tell you that it is time to call your shot with Boston Pizza and Molson. Get any pizza flights order or a ice-cold Sub-Zero, Coors Light, or Molson Canadian, and you'll get an entry to win instant Boston Pizza gift cards, a custom-made outdoor rink for next winter in your backyard, or even a VIP NHL experience. So you can do that right now at Boston Pizza. Dine in, takeout, or delivery at any local location. And of course, our friends Nick and Nikki and DQ. That's, of course, DQ Northgate, DQ St. Anne's, DQ Polo Park, and DQ Niverville. And anyone, if you're having a birthday, a celebration in the south of the city, St. Norbert, St. Adolphe, Ile-des-Chênes, or Niverville, hit up DQ Niverville for their custom DQ cakes, only 20 minutes south of the city. And at all 4 locations, it's 2 for $5 treat nights at all stores after 8 p.m., 2 medium cones, dip cones, or 2 medium sundaes, 7 days a week after 8 p.m. at the Nick and Nikki DQs. All right, we'll get to the cool bet lines a little bit later on. Get ready for the Zurich Classic for Breezy Bend. But very pleased to have Nikolaj Ehlers join the program. He was gracious to join us a little earlier, caught up with him, talked about this season both on the ice and off the ice. Here's the Winnipeg Jet winger with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Very excited to welcome in our next guest. We did a little straw poll yesterday in the live YouTube chat for the program, asking a very general question to our viewers: who is their favorite player right now in the NHL? And I can tell you, there was many great submissions, but the name we saw the most is the man that we welcome in live right now to the program. And it, of course, is Jets forward Nikolaj Ehlers. Nick, what's going on? It's great to have you on the program. Thanks so much for doing this.
Well, thank you for having me.
Great season so far. We want to talk about you and some things both on and off the ice, but let's first off talk about the team. In striking distance of first place right now, with 11 games to go. Not necessarily personally, but overall for the club. Tell us about what this first, 45 games has been like, and how you and the boys are feeling after a couple days off and actually getting to practice together for a change.
Yeah, we're feeling pretty good. Like you said yourself, it's it's been a while since we had a real practice. So it's been good with a couple of days off. We are ready to get back at it now, though. But the first 45 games have gone really well. It's been a different year, obviously, for everyone, and it's not gonna change anytime soon. So we're grinding, but we're also excited. We got a great team, and we're looking forward to this last stretch.
Following the team like everyone in this city does day in and day out, one of the things that I think is given so many fans of the club and people around the team, optimism that, we're not just in for a playoff spot, but, the potential of maybe a fun run in the playoffs is just the resiliency you guys have shown throughout the year. I believe still now only having lost back-to-back regulation games once so far this season. How would you characterize the spirit of the team and the ability to move on past disappointing performances and get back in the win column the way you've done this year?
Yeah, I mean, it just shows what kind of group of guys we have in the locker room. We're a bunch of guys that work hard every single game. We don't give up, and we've seen that. I hope everyone else can see that. That we're working our asses off to give ourselves the best chance to win every single game. So it's we don't want to lose 2 games in a row. You don't want to lose 2 games in a row in the playoffs, and we have been trying to be prepared for the playoffs since the beginning of the season, and we feel good about where we're at right now.
It's so there's some things people will look at stats and things that you can kind of really quantify. And then there's other things that make teams great and successful that are difficult to quantify. I mean, you're now an NHL veteran. You've been with this team through some tougher years, some really exciting years, and this would certainly qualify as one of those. How would you describe the level of belief between you and your teammates within the Winnipeg Jets and how that's grown as you and many of these players have sort of grown up together in Winnipeg with the Jets?
Yeah, I mean, I came in my first couple of years, we didn't make the playoffs. And since then it's just been moving the right way. And, the guys that have been here since I came into the league, have I think felt the same way, that we're constantly moving in the right direction. Even though that we went to the conference finals and then we lost in the first round, but we're all learning. I'm learning, and I think, even the older guys are learning. So we feel good about where we're at. And like you said yourself, we're not just in it for a playoff spot. We believe in ourselves. We believe we can do a lot more. So it's an exciting time. We're having fun, and it's going to be good.
When you look at championship teams and teams that contend, that go on big runs, and you kind of go back over how they got there. You mentioned there are some lessons that are learned, and often the lessons that you learn are learned the hard way through failure and then overcoming those things. Just going back to 2018, it's a playoff run that everyone around here will remember fondly, probably for all of their lives. But from a player and team perspective, what can that experience do to help you guys once you get to the Stanley Cup playoffs in a few weeks?
I mean, it was so much fun. That run, the memories, it was amazing. We weren't able to leave the rink at home until at least like an hour after the game because there was too many fans outside, like stuff like that. Like it sounds ridiculous when I'm here talking about it, but that's how it was. You drive to the game 2.5, 3 hours before the game, and you'd see Jets fans already roaming the streets. You miss that. And, obviously there's probably not going to be any fans in the arenas this year, but I think that the Jets fans have been really supportive anyway this year. And they're going to help us go on the long run this year, even though they won't be there.
How much does the actual playoff experience and what you guys went through and learned, to get to the conference finals, how much will that be? I don't want to say in the back of your mind, but just having been there before and having gone through that, how much does that help a more mature team once the Stanley Cup tournament gets going in 2021?
Well, you look back and we had an unreal series against Nashville that went 7 games. I think that's the craziest series I've ever played in. So we felt great coming out of that and won our first game against Vegas. And then you lose 4 games in a row and you're out. And you start to think what went wrong. And you can ask me now, you can ask me in 10 years, I still won't have an answer for you. All I know is that we had 25 guys that battled their asses off. Even when we were behind 2-1, 3-1 in games, there was no quit. And yes, we did lose that series, but that is something that you're going to get very far with. And I think, for me, I've learned a lot throughout the last 3 years in the playoffs. And you learn something every single year. So for me, it's a pretty simple game plan of just going out there, skating, shooting, and working hard. When we work as a team together, we're a pretty good team, and we've shown that throughout this year. So it's just a matter of moving forward and keeping that going.
Nikolaj Ehlers with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Nick, I know the focus is always on the team, but I do want to ask you as an individual, you're having a phenomenal season, 20 goals, 45 points, point-a-game player right now for the first time. Is this just the general development path of you kind of taking that next step this year, or is there something that you've improved on in your mind or worked on that's helped you, kind of take a next step to being a real star in the National Hockey League as we've seen this year?
I think, like I said before, you learn things every single year. You learn things about your game on and off the ice. And I think that with a bunch of small details that might seem small, that make a big difference in the game, I think that I've gotten better at those small things throughout my 6 years in the league. And I'm playing with great players every single night that are helping me too. So I feel good about where my game is at, but not good enough to stop working on it. So it's been good so far. We still got 11 games to go, and I'm going to do everything I can to help my team win. So it's been an exciting year so far.
I wanted to ask you about shooting the puck this year. I mean, you've got 20 goals, and Kyle Connor right there trading for the team lead right now, which I'm sure is a fun little internal competition. But I crunched some numbers going in, and I mean, you're averaging more than 3 shots a game for the first time in your NHL career. Your average shots per game is about a third more than your previous career high. is that just the result of, playing more, being more successful in better positions, or did you come into this season with the goal to maybe shoot the puck a little bit more, and now you're getting the results?
Yeah, exactly. I think that I've had some conversation with the coaches, even before the season started, that I kind of play my best hockey when I got that shoot first mentality. And that doesn't mean that I'm always going to come down and shoot the puck. But it means that when I have that mentality, I skate a lot more. I skate faster and more direct. And I think that has helped my game a lot. So it's something that I've tried to keep on I've been working on, and I'm going to keep working on it. But I think that's a huge part of why I have that many shots. So it's worked so far, and hopefully it keeps working.
Hey, you mentioned about playing with some talented players. Obviously, Pierre-Luc Dubois is the newest sort of member of that core coming over in the big trade, and Paul Stastny returning, who you did have some considerable success with a few years ago in his first stop in Winnipeg, now part of the club. Maybe just a few words on playing with those guys and, what Stastny and Dubois in particular sort of bring to the table that, will hopefully make you guys successful when we get to the postseason.
Yeah, I mean they're two great players. Doobie is a big, strong guy, who's got a good shot and reads the game really well. Makes some great passes, and he's a fun guy to play with. And I think Stas, for, like you said, we had some pretty good chemistry the first time he was in Winnipeg, and I think we've been able to kind of pick up where we left off. He's the smartest hockey player I've ever played with, and he reads the game so well, and his hockey sense is great. So he's always in the right spot. He's always where the puck is going to be. He makes some great passes. So they're two fantastic guys to play with, and it's exciting.
All three of you are, uniquely involved in the power play, and it's amazing. For the first time this year in Winnipeg, you really have two power play units that have been almost equally successful, and coaches talked about that, sometimes starting with the other. Is there like a fun internal competition within the team between those two power play units when you guys get the opportunity?
I mean, for sure there is. We want to go out there and do well as the second unit. There's no doubt about it. So we go out there. Both units are going out there to try and score. That's hockey. But when the first unit doesn't do it, to have a second unit go out and be able to do it is pretty good for a hockey team. So we got to continue doing what we do and score some more goals.
Nick, we've talked a lot about hockey on the ice. I'm interested in this crazy year. A couple things. You're an incredibly popular player. You're a guy that brings a ton of energy to the building, both on the ice and I think within the crowd. What's it been like for you playing without fans?
I mean, you get used to it. It's obviously not as fun. You miss the atmosphere, and especially looking forward to the playoffs now. It's going to be very different. We miss our fans, and the atmosphere at the Bell MTS Center is amazing when they're there. But it is what it is. We're not the only ones playing in front of no fans. And once you're playing the game, you focus on playing the game. So hopefully soon they'll be back, but we'll see.
Okay, before we go, I've been wondering this all season long, and it's weird because the media, and thank you again for joining us, because in the world of Zoom calls, you really don't get a chance to get a little bit more out of the players. What is life like been for you on the road this season? Like, what's it an average day off where you are not playing? Like, say you're going and you're playing, a game day, and then you've got an off day, and then you got another game. Like, what do you do? Like, what is the 24 hours like for you when you can't really go anywhere and there's not a lot going on?
Yeah, those 24 hours are pretty long. They can be. You'll hang out with some of the guys. You obviously get tested every single day. You have breakfast. You have lunch at the hotel. You have dinner at the hotel. So it's a lot of time spent at the hotel. You go for walks as much as possible, try and get some fresh air, get out of the hotel, and you sit there, watch movies, play cards. That's about it. So the days can be very long, but I think every guy in the room is thankful to be able to do our job and play some hockey. So it's worth it.
Well, I tell you what, I think Jet fans are very thankful to have you here on a long-term deal. And actually, just speaking of long-term deals, before we go, what was the reaction in the room from the guys when Adam Lowry inked for 5 more years here in Winnipeg last Friday?
I mean, the reaction was great. Low's is a guy who's been here. He made the team the year before I came, and I was roommates with him in camp. So he's a guy who loves playing hockey for the Winnipeg Jets, and you can see that. He's such an important guy in the room and obviously on the ice with his work ethic every single night. And I think the Jets are pretty lucky to have signed a guy like him long term, and I know for a fact that every single guy in that room is incredibly happy about it and happy for him. So it's pretty awesome.
It's pretty clear from getting the feedback from fans here on the program and just around the city that, it's an exciting time for Jets fans with players like, you and Scheifele and Morrissey, the guys that had already committed. And then, fans are always nervous. What's going to happen to this guy? And to have that sort of commitment with unrestricted free agency knocking on the door just goes to show the way the team's being run and how much it seems like you guys like being a part of this here in Winnipeg. Nick, listen, won't take any more of your time. Really appreciate you doing this. Good luck tomorrow night against the Leafs. And here's to a long and prosperous playoff run here in the Peg. Even if we might not have 10,000 people everywhere downtown all dressed up in white, they'll certainly be behind you back home wherever they're watching their games. Cheers to you and the team, and thank you again.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
All right, that was a conversation from a little earlier with Jet star forward Nikolaj Ehlers. Thanks again to Nick for popping by the program. Really appreciate his time, and Scott and the gang over at the Jets for helping us set that up. Let's get Remis back in here. Pretty awesome, and again, we've talked over the years working back on Pembina Highway, talked to, dozens and dozens of Jets players and NHL players over, but I have to say, Nick, extended, thoughtful answers, had plenty of time for us, and it was just a great conversation, and you can tell by the chat, Remo, just how popular this guy is here in the city of Winnipeg with what he's doing for the Jets on the ice.
Yeah, I was getting texts from people saying, they hope after this contract he signs like a lifetime deal with the Jets. Wouldn't it be nice if, Adam Lowry said he wanted to play his whole career in Winnipeg. It would be great if we had a couple guys like that as well. One thing I took away from that is, we remember having fans, how much fun it was going to games. I'm seeing a lot of videos on Twitter saying, oh, this day in, 2018, the Jets beat the Wild in that first round series. That was, I think, yesterday, 2 years ago. And then Ehlers, hearing him talking about how much fun it was for them as well, seeing down the street all the fans, and I think playing in front of the crowds. And it seems like the players miss it, but they're kind of just gotten used to playing with no fans. But when you can get back there, and hopefully next season, it's going to be so awesome, those first couple of games, I think.
Oh, no, I totally agree. And that was one of my favorite parts of the interview, hearing him talk about not necessarily this series, but just as a player, seeing what was happening in this city around the arena and really everywhere you went. I mean, people were wearing right, people were fired up, and people were enjoying a playoff run unlike any we'd ever seen before. In the National Hockey League for the Winnipeg Jets. So it was memorable. But the other thing that really came out to me, Reem, is that there is maybe a quiet confidence of this hockey club, knowing that, they could be capable of some pretty special things. And I think that goes back to, the way that this group has grown through some failures over the last few years to get to this point where they're ready to take another crack at hopefully a long playoff run.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, we look at the way the team is, their forwards as deep as any, 1 through 12. And they've got the new forward lines now with Blake Wheeler back. Seems like he's going to be ready to go tomorrow. Connor Hellebuyck, elite goaltending and defense. They're going to have to go by committee mode. Neil Pionk and Morrisey leading the way, but it's going to be everyone going as a 5-man unit, trying to keep away the shots. And I think for the most part, they've done that over the last couple months. I know early on in the season they were getting outshot quite a bit, but lately it's been very, very solid, except when they're going up against Connor McDavid. They got to find a way to shut him down. It's tough, though, when he's making the Montreal Canadiens look like AHL or even less defenders. I mean, he's just skating by them just with a regular stride. So we will see.
I'm just taking a look at the chat, and if you are with us, thanks so much for joining us, especially maybe some new people that came in to hear Nikolaj Ehlers. If you are here, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button so you can be with us on a regular basis, and definitely, if you don't mind, hit that thumbs up button if you like the interview and if you like the content here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Lots of great feedback on the interview with Nikolaj Ehlers. Great guest, good interview, Huss. Glad you got her. I like how he had... That's awesome. Great job, WST. Thanks, Huss and Remis, everyone else involved in that interview with Nikki. Thanks for having Ehlers on. Guy is a class act. Well, that was awesome. You guys keep one-upping yourselves. And Jeff Kabili is a lifetime deal, like Columbia House. I think everyone would be down for a lifetime deal with Nikolaj Ehlers right now. So as we mentioned, big thanks to Scott in helping us set that up. And we'll hope to do more things like that as we get going here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. I do want to give a shout out to the gang working so hard at Breezy Bend to get everybody back on the course. Course reopens tomorrow. And if you're thinking about maybe looking at getting on that waiting list for next season at Breezy Bend Golf and Country Club, you can find out more at breezybend.ca or give them a call and talk to our pal Corey Johnson, doing such a great job running the golf course. And speaking of golf, before we get to our cool bet lines of the day, it's the Zurich Classic of New Orleans beginning on the PGA Tour. And this is an interesting one. This is the pairs. It's not just a single tournament, so guys have partners. We talked about it quite a bit yesterday on the Lock Shop. Pat Cantlay and Xander Schauffele, along with John Rahm and Ryan Palmer, are the favorites at 8-1. I got a little nickel on the Cantlay and Schauffele team, as well as Colin Morikawa and Matthew Wolff at 16-1. They'll do 4 balls and then alternate shot, 4 balls, alternate shot. So it's a very different tournament. If you do win, you get a 2-year exemption on the PGA Tour. It counts as a full win. However, it doesn't include a visit to the Masters. But hey, it should be a fun weekend, a little something different on the PGA Tour. As always, our golf reports are brought to you by our friends at Breezy Bend Golf and Country Club. And I do want to give a shout out to our friends at Aikens Lake getting ready for the season. I think I told you this yesterday. Normally June, maybe the busiest month of the year when it comes to international travelers coming from the States to Aikens, which is a fly-in lodge. You drive to Silver Falls, get up in the air, up and down. You can literally be from the city on the water in a couple of hours. And incredible people that run the place. So if you're thinking about maybe a bit of a getaway in the province in the month of June, there's usually no availability. There is this year. Find out more, aikenslake.com, or online. Hit them up on Twitter. Say hi to our pal Pitt at Aikens Lake. All right, Reem, let's get into these cool bet lines for tonight. You were talking about the Edmonton Oilers and Montreal Canadiens, what Connor McDavid did to the Habs a couple nights ago. Well, they've got another crack at Connor McDavid tonight. And, these are important games for Montreal to, get some points. I mean, Calgary's done nothing to take advantage of their situation in the standings, losing to Ottawa, losing their last game to the Habs. Calgary's got Vancouver and then 3 in a row against Montreal. But Montreal's just 4 games above 500. It's hard to believe we're actually talking about the Vancouver Canucks having a chance to maybe barge back into the conversation here. But that's where we are. And the Oilers, not surprisingly, minus 135 favorites tonight. Habs plus 115 on the road.
Yeah, I'm not so sure what to think. The Habs are going to need to make a win. Edmonton's playing well. I still like the Habs, I would think, as a, what are they, underdog here? So that's a tough one, though. I mean, they haven't played great, and we'll have to wait and see. I mean, tough to bet against McDavid. I know he's always a play on DraftKings, but maybe Montreal bounces back. I mean, they gotta play well. I mean, if they don't get wins, as Vancouver, they got like 4 straight games against Ottawa coming up, and if they win all those, they could get back in it. So Montreal, they got 47 and 43, Calgary 41 and 45. So it's not. We've been saying that it's done for a while, but the way Montreal is playing, they could let some of these teams back in.
Yeah, they're doing everything they can to add a little bit more suspense to the regular season right now. Calgary's done nothing to get back into the mix. And again, Calgary's got Vancouver and then 3 in a row against Montreal. And any hope they have of getting back in pretty much is predicated on they need to sweep the Montreal Canadiens in those 3 head-to-head matchups coming up on the weekend. Other games tonight on our Cool Bet Daily lines. Nashville, minus 128 favorites in Chicago to take on the Blackhawks. Hawks a plus 110 home dog. The Minnesota Wild, road favorites as well. Minus 149 at Arizona to take on the Coyotes. Coyotes plus 128 as the home underdog. And Vegas, huge favorite, minus 250 to beat the San Jose Sharks. Sharks plus 205 if you want to get on the Knights on the puck line to win by 2. Just about even money at minus 103. Check out our Twitter feed at Sports Talk WPG. You should be following anyways. Please do. Spread the word. Give us an RT. We will have the promo code for you if you want to get on coolbet.com. All of that daily lines up at Sports Talk Winnipeg. Remo, let's get back to the Jets for a minute before we wrap the program. Looks like Jordy Benn's going to get in the lineup tomorrow night. He was skating alongside Dylan DeMello. You had the 4th pairing with the youngsters, Stanley and Heinola. Not surprising that Jordy Benn's going to get a chance to get into the lineup, play a couple of games with his new team. As Paul Maurice pretty much laid out last week, we would be seeing a little bit more rotation in that 6th spot on the blue line.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said, okay, we're going to see Stanley, Heinola, Ben. They're going to be in some competition. So we saw Heinola get in for a game. Stanley was in last game. Maybe had a couple turnovers that he liked back. Hellebuck, shut the door on those. But Jordy Ben, you got to be careful here. Us mixing up.
Listen,
Jamie
it gets everybody. It gets everybody.
Yeah, we all know that it's Jordy, but the names slip off the tongue. But Jordy Ben, he's going to get in. DeMello said he's a veteran guy. Or I forget. I think Ben was talking about playing with DeMello. Either way, that's likely going to be the 3rd pair. Maurice did confirm that. We'll have Blake Wheeler likely back tomorrow as well. So that was the Jets update.
Well, it's been, I think this has been an important week for the Winnipeg Jets in that, they've got a little bit of time to rest. They've actually had a couple full practices. I mean, hope it'll, interesting. I know there's been so much talk about Pierre-Luc Dubois sort of finding that connection on a line. I'm happy that they put him back into the middle. And again, playing with a player like Nikolaj Ehlers, pretty good spot to be for the young 22-year-old centerman. And of course, Paul Stastny on the wing. And that allows Andrew Kopp to return to be part of that wrecking ball unit on the 3rd line along with Mason Appleton and Adam Lowry. Reem.
Yeah, those guys have been so good. And, in the 4th line, too, been no slouch with Lewis, Thompson, and Perreault, who's been excellent in his limited minutes. So I think you got to like this. And maybe, with Wheeler back now, that would be the shutdown line, the Kopp, Appleton, Lowry against the McDavid line. Because I think that's the matchup we're all looking forward to against Edmonton. I think that's all we're focusing on. I like the quote from, the sports rabbi, Matt Leibel, yesterday. He's like, look, we're not going to learn anything new about the Jets in the last 11 games. And I kind of agree. We know what team they are. They're the same, been running the same lineup now. We'll wait to see what injuries and all that. But they're going to have to figure out how to shut down McDavid. I think that's the bottom line here. They've had some trouble in a couple games this year. But I have no question. I'm not doubting their ability, but you have to, actually see them do it going forward here.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, like I'm spending a lot of time now just focusing in on the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, we're going to be talking about the Leafs coming up this week with these head-to-head games, and if the Jets can get wins, we will be talking about the a legitimate race for first that could end with the final game of the regular season, Winnipeg versus Toronto. But the most likely matchup right now is Edmonton, and honestly, Reem, that is a little bit, I think there's some nervous Jet fans about it. Not that they don't believe in the team, just the fact that the Jets haven't had a lot of success recently going head-to-head against Edmonton. And, with Maurice going back to the lineup, Old Faithful, Wheeler, Scheifele, Connor, to me, I mean, listen, these guys are going to need to score against Edmonton because that Edmonton's going to get their chances the other way. But, you just simply can't have constant matchups of one line that, has really been on the wrong end of the ledger when it comes to 5-on-5 goals going up against that McDavid line. So, I mean, to me, the biggest challenge for Paul Maurice is going to see whether that line can, keep their heads above water and, even get close to a saw-off against McDavid. And then there are other options. We know that Adam Lowry is going to go out there and going to get plenty of matchups against McDavid. But if McDavid's playing 26, 27 minutes a night, unrealistic that line is going to be doing all that heavy lifting, which then I think comes down to really the key line when it get to a playoff series is going to be Pierre-Luc Dubois. And Pierre-Luc Dubois, we saw what he did last year for the Blue Jackets against the Toronto Maple Leafs. He has been dominant at times in the playoffs. He's really risen his level of play. And I'm interested in your thoughts on this, Reem. I was talking with Marcoux last night. We were just, talking Jets and, hitting, some ideas around. If it does get down to the playoffs where they're looking at Dubois to potentially be the guy going up against the McDavid line, might they look at putting, a couple of the top defensive players on the line with Dubois with the express job of doing their best to keep the puck and keep it away from Connor McDavid? And to me, the guys that, might fit best, and it's a lineup that I don't think we've seen really at any point, would be Andrew Kopp playing with Dubois and maybe Blake Wheeler on the right side. Now, that would mean that Paul Stastny would sort of be the odd man out if you're going Scheifele, Connor, and Ehlers. But Stastny's such a versatile player. I think he can maybe play in that spot along with Appleton and Adam Lowry on the line. But to me, and again, just come down, I guess, to summarize, Paul Maurice's biggest challenge is figuring out how you can minimize the effect of Connor McDavid. Because if the Jets do that, they'll have a very good chance of winning a best of 7.
Yeah, and we all talked about Pierre-Luc Dubois last year in the playoffs, shutting down Austin Matthews. So I think Adam Lowry would probably be their first option. Maybe they do look to Dubois going forward. As I said, he's done it before. He's a big guy. He can definitely skate. Put him with some talented players, like Wheeler and Kopp. Sure, I think that would definitely make sense. Maurice has shown he's not afraid to put out the blender if he sees things aren't working. We saw it last week. Perfect example against the game in Ottawa. It was kind of a slog fest. Third period, little line blending, and the team was able to come out with a win. So we'll see what happens. We are looking forward to tomorrow night, though. We got to, it's fun to look ahead to Edmonton. We're going to be talking about Edmonton for a long time. Tomorrow night, Toronto. Sounds like Jack Campbell, according to Dave, he's going to be starting, but I mean, it's hard not to.
Well, it's not going to be Big Save Dave, I don't think, after getting run over by Sheldon Keefe afterwards. How about that line? There's some things you just can't overcome. Yeah. I mean, how bad must Rittich have been feeling on that bus after the game?
I mean, he knows he let in some easy goals.
He owned it, and he apologized to his teammates, but that's a pretty rough way to ingratiate yourself into a new locker room after the team spent a third-round pick at the deadline to pick you up for insurance.
Yeah, and we were kind of surprised that he was even got that much, and we saw last night maybe why we were surprised, but hope he can come back from that if you're a Leafs fan. And we were joking last week. Jack Campbell rookie cards, we're going for like $100 now. They're way down, and he's gonna have to redeem himself. He's not gonna win every game. I got some fun facts about this game last night. Hit
me. I've been looking forward to these.
So these are on the internet, on like Twitter, the most popular numbers are 69 and 420. Right? And yesterday,
popular numbers.
So yesterday, the Canucks franchise got their 69th win over the Maple Leafs on 420. That was April 20. Okay? The game had a total of 69 shots, and the Canucks scored 6 of the 9 goals in the game, and there were 4 goals in the final 20-minute period. I saw that on Reddit. I fact-checked all those. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I think the gods, the hockey gods, had already predetermined that outcome.
Wow,
that's all we can take from that.
Nice stats, Remo. Nice stats.
Those are
for
some,
sure. Blue Jays tonight. Just back to the lines for 1 second. I did want to mention the Jays. They lost to the Red Sox last night. Top really 1 inning for Hyunjin Ryu, and that was the difference. They were only able to plate 2 runs. Jays plus 109 underdogs tonight, going up against the Boston Red Sox at minus 122. The Red Sox have been kind of a crazy team. Didn't they start off without scoring a run on the first weekend against Baltimore of all teams, starting off 0-3, and then out of nowhere ripped off 9 in a row?
Yeah, they got off to a real rough start. But, I don't think their lineup is too bad. I mean, they brought in Enrique Hernandez from the Dodgers. He's been leading off. He's kind of finding his groove. Rafael Devers, nice bat as well. And Nathan Eovaldi, remember him from the World Series a couple of years ago? He's off to a good start too. Got him in fantasy, so I'm pretty aware of what he's been doing. But Red Sox and Jays, where Red Sox are slight favorite. Garrett Richards going for them. He's off. He's had a rough start. Who's that? Trent Thornton going for Toronto, and he's been good so far. 7.7 2/3 innings. He's got 6 strikeouts. So let's see Let's see how this one goes for the Blue Jays. 4th in the AL East, 7-10. Red Sox first at 12-6. 7-10, not getting it done for the Blue Jays. I think they're still waiting for George Springer to come back. Their big free agent signing.
Absolutely. They need Springer to get in there. I mean, they need Merriweather back. They need Nate Pearson. I mean, they're just trying to keep their heads above water right now until they get some of these bodies back. Now, speaking of baseball, Reem, our pal Francois over at Sony hooked up that code. Have you given MLB The Show yet a spin through? I got it for the Xbox. I will be trying it tonight. I have not yet played it. What were the early returns?
Yeah, we got to figure out how to do crossplay. You can do that now. I got PS4, you got Xbox, so we can play against each other.
There could be the first ever Winnipeg Sports Talk head-to-head Huss versus Remis stream.
Yeah, we could. I'm learning all the controls. Again, really, I'm not a patient. I swing at everything. And I am doing the Diamond Dynasty. It's fun to do these little challenges. You can do these quick little game modes that don't take very long. So you're not sitting there, if you're not sitting there, for an hour playing a game, which I think is the biggest problem with games. They're too damn long. You used to be able to rip off a game of NHL 94 in 5 minutes, and you could get all these games. And now, between turning on the game, loading, setting your lines, all that BS, games take it takes 40 minutes to play a game of Madden. So I like the mini game format. If you do Road to the Show, Huss, I would recommend Road to the Show. You create a player, pick a position for him and work him into the major leagues. So that's a fun mode too.
What's the name of your Diamond Dynasty team? Are you a Winnipeg squad or did you pick somewhere else?
I'm a Winnipeg squad because they have Winnipeg as the play-by-play name. So I figured that made sense.
Oh, excellent.
So you can pick Winnipeg, and people make logos for your team and all that stuff. It's pretty cool. And yeah, I guess if you're on Xbox, it is free on Game Pass.
Ooh, wow. Well, we'll have to get on that. I picked the game up anyways. I'm looking forward to a head-to-head battle, the first ever head-to-head battle in Winnipeg Sports Talk history. Yeah, and Remo, you do need PGA. There it is, the Earl of Eli. You're exactly right. Divot Derby. There will be some Divot Derbying, I think, a little bit later on. We're going to have a big show tomorrow, of course. It is going to be a game day edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, Jets and Leafs. And after his impromptu appearance on Monday, the regularly scheduled appearance of one Ken Wiebe will be live tomorrow. We've got, I think it was Vern Fechta. We've had a number of people asking about Bayak, getting Dennis Bayak on. Very happy to tell you that the voice of the Jets from TSN and our very good friend is going to join us on Friday on the program. So looking forward to that. And one way or the other, Remis, we hope to maybe have Wade Miller on the program tomorrow, but we'll certainly talk more about what this announcement today by the Canadian Football League means and what we can look forward to and really what needs to happen for this plan to come to fruition and begin a CFL season on the 5th of August and play 14 games and give out the Grey Cup again, albeit in December in Hamilton.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I think we're moving along here in Canada to have a place where fans can go to the games and do it in a safe manner whether it's, 50% capacity to begin or less than 50, and you work your way up. But I think, look, they set a date, and maybe June, if it's like, okay, Ontario's not in a good spot, maybe do they look at moving some teams out of there? I have no idea, but it's nice to have a date. We've been wondering. They think they told players to report to training camp in like July, and they'll have to quarantine before. But it seems like in the U.S., they're giving out all the shots. Here, again, moving along, the age is getting lowered. I'm seeing a lot more people posting on social media they're getting them. So I'd love to have a CFL season. I really missed doing CFL DraftKings last year, most importantly, and seeing the Bombers play as well. So, and I think it was a good move, too, by Wade to say, hey, look, we're not going to raise the Grey Cup banner until we can have a packed house. I think that would be pretty cool. Maybe signal the end of us, and finally the beginning that we can finally move forward again.
Oh, you know what? I couldn't agree more, dude. When we finally get to the point that we are able to gather as a community together in somewhat close confines and pack that stadium, that will truly be a special moment for the city, for the football team, but I think just for sports fans here, being able to get back together. Now, listen, I'm going to be there, for if they're open up at 50% capacity, however it works, I'll be there looking forward to doing it. And, I guess it's also encouraging that it seems like, from what we're hearing, a lot more people are getting their shot going forward. Now, I guess you're not on a list. I mean, you technically are an essential worker, Reem, as being a member of the media. I'm not sure whether we still count that. Not quite the grocery store clerk or not, but you still have a little bit of time to wait, I guess.
I don't think, I'm not quite old enough yet. I don't think they have like YouTubers on the essential list, or are we now that we had a Jet on here, are we like officially
we're essential,
part of the media?
We're essential.
I'm just going downstairs. There's people who need it more than me, but I'll wait. I'll happily wait my turn.
Yeah, I agree, but it will be good to get that, and I think it's it's good for personally, but also for hopefully everyone to get back to. I mean, the more people get shots, the more people will be able to get into that stadium. The sooner we'll be able to get to where we want to be, and that is some semblance of normal, albeit probably a new normal. Anyways, this has been a great show today. I thanks again to Dave McCarthy, the best dressed guest on Winnipeg Sports Talk, bringing his staff and a lot of hot takes that set the alarm off earlier today on the program. And, of course, Nikolaj Ehlers. Thanks so much to Nikolaj for joining us, and Scott Brown for helping us set that up. It was a pretty awesome show for a Wednesday, Remo, heading into what will be a lot of fun, getting ready for Jets Leafs tomorrow night in downtown Winnipeg.
Yeah, I mean, this has been an awesome show. We had a ton of people here for Nikolaj Ehlers, and I was kind of worried what are we going to do for these 3 nights, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, without Jets hockey. They've had a break, going to get back at it tomorrow. Finally, we'll have games to look forward to, and a game in the evening, a nice 6 p.m. start against Toronto, who really hasn't played well as of late. And, of course, goaltending. It seemed to have figured out the goalie of the future like 2 weeks ago, and now another big issue there.
Well, I'll tell you what, that Leafs goalie better be ready to go tomorrow night, because I think coming off a kind of very silent offensive performance on Saturday against the Oilers, the Jets, much like we heard from Nikolaj Ehlers, they're going to be shooting the puck tomorrow night, and we'll see what happens. Anyways, it should be great. Once again, I have to thank Dave McCarthy, Nikolaj Ehlers, Michael Remis, and all of our sponsors, Not AutoCorp, Royal Sports, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, and, of course, Boston Pizza Winnipeg. Our friends at Breezy Bend Golf and Country Club, Coolbet Canada, and Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Remo, on the way out, any big plans for tonight, or just trying to learn the baseball game a little bit more? Maybe visit with your family for 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'll probably do that. I'm going to work on putting out some more social media content for this. So I know the Ehlers is going to be available as a standalone interview. It's going to have some stuff on the Twitter and our Instagram. So Sports Talk WPG on all those. So give us a follow on there for sure.
Yes, indeed. And if you are a PS4 guy, stay tuned to our shows over the next little while. We will have a giveaway for a code for the new game. We'll hook up one of our loyal listeners. Listen, everybody, before you leave the YouTube feed, hit that like button if you don't mind, and if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe. Been a great show today. We'll have another big one tomorrow with the latest on the Canadian Football League's plans moving forward, and Ken Wiebe himself getting us ready for Jets Leafs. And don't forget, for all of you that have been clamoring for us to get Dennis back on, he will be live with us on Friday's edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. That is going to do it for us. Tell your friends. Spread the word on Winnipeg Sports Talk. We appreciate the support, everybody. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow with Ken Wiebe getting ready for Jets Leafs here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Have a great night.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.